Hey everyone, it's Jack. It's 2 years later, and now we have another community ranking of every single Drag Race season from the US. Last time we got just over 1,000 responses. This time it was over 2,500, which is crazy. Thank you so much to everyone who took time out of their day to make responses. So many of you gave such thoughtful answers, even though it was just optional. I'm extremely happy to be able to highlight those today, and because this community ranking went so well, I'm gonna do it again with something else, maybe like Snatch Games or something. If you want to participate in that, make sure you're here by liking and subscribing. Only about 40% of you are, so I'd love to have you here. Because this is my second time doing this ranking, how it's gonna work is that it's still gonna go from worst to best, but it's 2 years later, so 4 more seasons of Drag Race have been added, making the total amount of entries up to 27. For the 23 seasons that we've already talked about, up in the corner, I'm gonna have the points changed from the previous list to this list. For example, if a season scored 7.55 in the previous list and it scored a 7.75 in this list, of course that is a positive change of 0.2. That'll be up there in the corner for the people who like the numbers. Up there, I will also include if there was a shift in position from previous list to this list. How I got all the numbers is I took all of the ratings and then just averaged them out. I think that's all the math jargon that I need to talk about. I just kind of like to say it. I'm still kind of in college mode, I guess. So without further ado, comment below what you think's topping the list and what you think is at the bottom. Both might be pretty easy to guess.
The ultimate battle has begun. Sister against sister. Mondays this fall are an all-star drag.
Coming in dead last, we still have All Stars 1, which hasn't changed much since the original list. We can all agree, especially as more and more All Star seasons come out, this cast was one of the best they've ever done. Because the pool was so small and so many of the queens were still so tied to the show, they planned to get 3 queens from each of the first 4 seasons. In actuality, it didn't really shake down that way, with Mimi M first coming in very last minute from the rumors, but honestly, because Mimi was there, it made that first episode the only one really worth watching. And honestly, you can almost even skip the first episode and just watch the Untucked, which is easily the best thing to come out of this season. What holds this season back and makes it rank the worst is the teams format, which none of the queens knew about going into the season. At most, they knew they were going to sign up for a season of the show that's much shorter than the original seasons, and maybe the queens were talking through the grapevine about who was going to be on, but I don't think any of them expected to be in teams and get eliminated by 2. The surprise format led to a lot of challenge performances that left a lot to be desired. It's almost like they had no planning or preparation for how they could be in teams on the show. I truly wonder how the showrunners were feeling as the season was going on. Did they think it was a success? Did they see multiple queens going out at once and be like, oh, I wish they stayed longer? Did they get the drag content that they were expecting? With how long it took to do another All-Star season, I assume the producers didn't really get what they wanted out of this one. Either that, or it was very hard to pitch and greenlight another season after how bad this one was received. It's such a waste of the good that this potential cast could have brought, along with the fact that this was such a close-knit group of queens at this point on the show with only 4 seasons aired. They had gone through such a unique experience, and with season 4 really blowing up the show, it would have been the perfect time capsule to get a really classic Drag Race season with these really classic queens. But instead, we got a poorly planned, glorified mini-series. It's still great that Chad won though. Only one good episode, the first one. I mean, teams? Camp. We all knew Chad was gonna win though. Actually so campy and fun, just horrible concept with the teams. I mean, it's not bad, we got iconic Untucked moments, the team's twist was just not it. Team's twist makes this season horrible, not much else to say. All Stars 1 scores a 3.8, down 0.04 from the 2023 list.
Are you ready for your close-up? Because it's time to play the fame games.
2023 was the year that All Stars 8 aired, and even though people didn't like the season at the time, apparently it still had some recency bias because it is now moved down to the second to last spot on the list. And at the end of the video, we'll also get into some reasons why the numbers may have moved one way or another, just with more people who have voted, things like that. Aside from that, my personal opinions of All Stars 8 have kind of gotten better over time, or at least they've gotten less harsh. It's a bad season, everyone knows that, but because it's so bad and everyone knew that from the start, it almost makes me want to defend it, or at least try to find some good in there. Like I mentioned in my last video, both Joan Crawford the Musical and Forensic Queens are both really good episodes. And I'll even extend it further to the Snatch Game of Love this season. All 3 of these episodes have great runways, lip syncs, and challenge performances. But in all of those episodes, the cast chemistry is what really bogs it down a lot. The Snatch Game of Love episode being the absolute worst of them all. This is the one where Heidi quits after she gets into a confrontation with Kahana, and no one really comes to Heidi's defense at all. And then immediately after the confrontation with Kahana, Candy then then jumps in, saying Heidi was spreading a false narrative that Candy would send Jimbo home if she landed in the bottom. Even though Alexis heard what Candy said and said how she would send Jimbo home, and Heidi was just kind of relaying that, but Alexis doesn't defend her there, and even though James agrees that Heidi was just playing Snatch Game, James doesn't defend Heidi to Kahana either. Heidi was already in a bad place going into the season. She got there, felt like she was being overlooked in a couple of the challenges, and then chose to exit the competition on her own terms because she didn't have her joy there. This moment is the emblem for basically the entire vibe of All Stars 8. Later in the Forensic Queens episode, Kahana and Alexis both feel like they want to quit. The entire time, Candy is trying to make good TV happen like she tried to do on season 13 as well, but because the vibes were so bad and so many people were not really wanting to be players in this drama, it just came off super manufactured. And in the case with Heidi, she was just not in a good place to be hearing this drama, and it was one of a couple reasons why I feel like she wanted to leave the competition. Candy wasn't the one to cause her to quit, but I don't think Heidi was in TV mode and she didn't want to be misconstrued anyway. It's still really terrible to watch back, and I understand why people still rate this season low for that reason. So when I tried to rewatch it, going in knowing that Jimbo was gonna win and steamroll everyone, and not having to watch that week to week where you know it's gonna happen but you haven't seen it yet, it made it slightly easier to watch and just appreciate the good drag that was happening. Jimbo, Kahana, Heidi, they all had some spectacular runways, and like I said, there were some really great challenge performances this season. The drama feels manufactured, the storylines are non-existent or really boring. Jimbo being the saddest little frontrunner by not being able to win a lip sync but winning every single challenge, I don't think it really makes for as compelling TV as they want it to. And then Jimbo finishing off her storyline by her beating Silky in a lip sync to the song Freakazoid, like, I don't know, it just seems so manufactured, like I've been saying. Which sucks because, like a lot of you were saying, Jimbo doesn't really need any pushing to be able to win a season, like she just has it. But every step of the way, we see Jimbo just get closer and closer to the crown and everyone fall further and further back. It's easier to appreciate when you're the one choosing to watch it as opposed to it being the only season on, but it still doesn't make for a good season. Not a very fun season. Also, Jimbo would have won the season fairly, so any rigging in her favor felt odd. Like, she's got this, don't worry. Also, while it was fun to see early outs back, it definitely made the cast feel lopsided. The highs of the season, a stunning promo, a few charismatic queens who were a delight to watch. The lows, bad challenges overall, predictable winners since day one, queens being pushed further by production, elimination at top 3 was criminal, I didn't even talk about that was crazy. Fame Games was lackluster, finale was really boring. Another flop season, like the promo had me so hyped and it was stunning. Then the season aired and it was a train wreck. We all knew as soon as Jimbo was cast, the season was rigged unfortunately, because I love Jimbo, but damn, that was such a letdown of a season.
That was weird for me.
All Stars 8 scores a 4.10, down 0.75 from the 2023 list, which is probably the biggest drop of the video.
It's the biggest shakeup in All Stars history.
This time, they're playing a brand new game.
All Star rules have been suspended.
So what bottom tier season triumphed and rose above All Stars 8, moving up so many spots? We have All Stars 5, which moved up 1 spot from the 2023 list, making it the 3rd worst season of Drag Race now. And I completely understand why these two seasons are ranked so low and are often like kind of linked together. They both have the exact same problems, which are hard to watch. A cast that lacks chemistry and a lack of drama, except for 2 episodes this season, which are really great. A frontrunner who, as soon as they walked in the workroom, you knew that they were going to win the season, so it doesn't really make it interesting to watch. Most, if not all of the challenges were pretty bad. I think All Stars 5 has some of the worst challenges of any Drag Race season. And while there are a few standout lip syncs, the rest of them are pretty not great, most of it depending on song choice or who's performing on the stage. Shay is a great drag queen, and even with the recent controversy that she's kind of found herself in, it's cool to see such a well-rounded queen on the screen. However, because she's such a central figure of the season and we're coming off of the back of All Stars 4, it was extremely taboo to even mention voting for Shay or trying to eliminate Shay in the competition. It's like one of the major plot points of the drama on the season. So knowing that a lot of the queens are playing safe, we kind of know how each elimination is going to go, and they still try to play it up like, oh, who could go home? But they were so track record, oh, they did better, they did worse, I needed to vote for them because I want to beat the best. It's no mystery to why the best episode of the season is where there is a little shakeup and who's going to actually go home. I've talked about it a lot recently, but India was basically meant to go home next. She throws out a lie to get people looking at Alexis, and then that's like a toss-up of who's actually going to go home. It was the only time on the season where anything was unpredictable. Other than that, India basically lived in the bottom next to other queens who weren't doing well, so they would always save her over the other queen, and we played to a top 3 that we basically all expected. Ms. Cracker especially almost had an interesting character thing, becoming more of a villain this season, but she had to be edited towards the crown and they didn't know if they were actually going to pick her at the end, so they had to make her look good. So there were random bits and pieces that could have made her look bad that were either edited out or edited weird, like the whole thing with Angina. Like, it's really just a lot, but also nothing at the same time. With With the next couple seasons above this one, I could maybe say, oh, there is an interesting season in there. I don't think I could fully say that for this season, but maybe there was an interesting character or two that were kind of edited weird. It comes down to some pretty bad challenges and very safe gameplay, fully a microcosm of the Drag Race fandom and what happened in the previous season of All Stars 4. Oh my god, just never watched it again. It's just bad. Drama felt forced and the whole season felt like watching Jujubee get I can't I was reading that one forgetting what it said. Another boring all-star season. Like, let's be real, as soon as Shay walked in, she won. Not an awful cast, just underwhelming. Love the top 3, but kind of forgettable. Despite its pacing and format flaws, this cast really makes the season one of the best and most fun top 3. Doesn't get much worse than this. Boring, uneventful, predictable, and frankly a waste of time. This commenter says Miss Cracker should have won, so sorry, but it's the truth. At least my truth. Don't know if I agree with that, but hey, that's what these community rankings are for. All Stars 5 scores a 4.33, down 0.1% from the 2023 list.
Come on, y'all clap! Y'all charity dance!
RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars.
We now have our first new entry entering the list, and out of the 4 seasons that have aired, can you guess which one it is? If you guessed All Stars 9, you would be right, and I'm surprised that you remembered this season. While the first 3 seasons we talked about are bad because they're predictable and they don't really have much drama, and a lot of the season feels like they're just throwing things in to make something interesting or something happen, this season is different. This one's not that predictable. But yeah, this season doesn't have much compelling drama, and they definitely throw in a lot to try and make something interesting happen, but at the end, it just gets to a point where it's a little insulting. All Stars 9 was a non-elimination charity season where 8 queens came back and competed for a charity of their choice to win $200,000. Prior to coming back to the competition, they were given both a stipend for runways and just an appearance fee, so they were all paid for it, which is great. Love that. Love giving the queens money. Unfortunately though, because they were all there the entire season and they already got paid like pre-season, sometimes it felt like the queens knew they could take a back seat if they knew they weren't going to do well in the challenge that week. So it led to some performances that I think left a little bit to be desired. Nothing really that bad, but it also affected a lot of the chemistry in the workroom with the queens not really interacting that much. Something that's always crazy to think about to me is the fact that Vanjie, Plastique, and Nina are all from the same season, and yet it felt like they were all from completely different worlds, completely different seasons. While having some of these heavy hitters back together is really incredible, it didn't really make for any great storylines. The only major one of the season being Roxy versus Angeria both blocking each other. That got the slightest bit of payoff in the finale episode where they lip sync for the crown, but at that point it should have just been a top 2 that Rue decided to choose based off of whatever they wanted to do. Because while I love her, Vanjie was up there and I don't think she really needed to be. She was one of the most charismatic and entertaining parts of the season, but she got up there because they decided to do another 3-star twist, and then she ended up winning the last challenge of the season, giving her more stars than Plastique, who had won like 4 or 5 challenges at that point, and she knew that they weren't going to crown her. There was really just no reason for her to be there. Along with the 3-star twist, they also had the double diamond twist, which was going to double someone's stars who they all voted for, and so they all voted for Nina West, who had 2 stars, making her total 4, which was not enough for her to get to the top, so it was just kind of a golf clap, and then they moved on because it did nothing. One twist did way too much, one did too little. Maybe we just shouldn't have them at all. The drag this season is incredible, especially the runways with people like Gottmik and Plastique. This is still a competition show though, and it's lacking a lot of that competition. So while I can see myself go back and just watch like 1 or 2 episodes as the season was airing, or just like trying to binge watch it, it feels really samey, and I think that's its biggest crime. This season sucks. Next question. Watched 2 episodes and it lost me, but credit for finally giving the queens a runway stipend. Drag Race needs to be less of a competition of who has the most money, so a runway stipend is the only way to go for me if they want to keep the level of runways they've had. All Stars 9 comes in 24th place and it scores a 5.13 out of 10.
I'm looking for America's next drag superstar. Thousands apply, but only 9 have been invited to compete for the crown.
Season 1 comes next, and just like All Stars 1, I don't really have a ton of things to say about it because all of its problems are really clear, and all of its pluses, you can kind of generalize those to Drag Race as a whole. Let's start with the positives. Everything from the workroom to the main stage to the runways themselves or the judging, it's all in like prototype mode. It's not the Drag Race that we really know, but the format they do is basically exactly identical to what we do today. And so we have to applaud them for being able to nail a format right out of the gate, and it just goes to show how unique and out there of a format it is, but something that's still super easy to follow. Queens are lip syncing for their lives. It sounds a little ridiculous, but then when you watch it, it makes a lot of sense. It's one last final performance. Compared to other season 1s of reality competition shows, they always go through growing pains, but drag races are never really bad when it comes to the format. What is bad is when I use one of my 5 senses and I look at the screen. The season 1 filter definitely cheapens the season a lot. It was done as an attempt to mask the lower quality cameras, but I think retro retroactively, it ends up making the season look even worse. Neither option visually would have been good, but this one is clearly a choice that they made as opposed to just kind of the circumstance, so it makes it even more noticeable. Everything else they were still just figuring out. The editing is fine, but it is not the Drag Race personality we know. The judging definitely skews way more older perspective about it being female impersonation, and that's it. So watching it nowadays and seeing how far drag has come, I mean, you can't really compare. But for all of these queens to walk in the workroom and just take a chance on a little reality show, I think it's incredible how far the show has come, but rightfully, I don't really think anyone can rank it that high. Balanced, all staple challenges came from the season. Too bad it's smeared with an awful filter. It definitely set the standard, but I can't justify myself putting it higher. Certainly of the times, for lack of a better term, but overall okay start to the franchise. Amazing, iconic, and only not 10 out of 10 because it was still finding its identity. Also, I think the Vaseline is charming and camp. Sue me, lol. Good starting point, rough to watch nowadays because of the filter. Season 1 scores a 5.18, down 0.32 from 2023's list.
You cannot keep a good queen down.
RuPaul's Drag Race. New season brings in New Year's Day.
Season 13 finds itself not really shifting at all on this list, and I think it's right where it should be. There are some redeeming qualities about the season, mostly to do with the drag and the runways being incredible, but it's one of the most overproduced seasons in terms of both judging and random things they try to do, such as bringing in a psychic to push the potential relationship of Rosé and Denali, as well as trying to push the Tina Burner and Rosé storyline that they tried to set up in the first episode but never really got off the ground. Like I said earlier in the video, I think there was the potential for there to be some sort of good season here. Just none of the storylines that they were setting up were coming to fruition, so instead of just kind of naturally trying to pivot somewhere else, they instead tried to push them even further, and it just came off really sloppy. There's other things like the winners and losers circle that was dropped after Lala was eliminated, when it was clear we could have gotten an underdog storyline in some sense. A lot of people pushing for Rosé to win because she was in that loser circle. I think a really easy solution to this whole storyline thing that I've seen on channels like Drag Race Rejudged, put Simone in the loser circle and then have her come up from the bottom. It's a really easy change that I think could fix a lot of the season's narrative. But instead, every single time a storyline gets set up, doesn't go anywhere, they try to push it last minute, and when that doesn't happen, they then eliminate the person it involves. A lot of the time in a way that doesn't really seem super fair. You can also really feel them scrambling to do a bunch of different things because they ordered 16 episodes for this season. We got Corona Can't Keep a Good Queen Down, and of course, the Pork Chop Loading Dock episode premiere. The worst premiere they've ever done, super mean-spirited, something that's just like really mentally draining for everyone involved. A terrible way to try and get new viewers into the show, completely changing the format and making it very confusing and repetitive and just not something fun to watch, even for returning viewers. It's really great that they got a season off the ground even during the height of the pandemic. The filming constraints only go so far though for the quality of the season. Season 13 is up there as one of the worst for me. The fighting drama felt forced at times to try and get some good screen time. Saving Candy ruined the season cause, probably hot take, I don't think she's made for Drag Race, she just makes good TV. Otherwise, the Pork Chop Loading Dock was one of the worst twists this show has ever done. I just hate this season so much. Great season, love the queens, except for Elliot, and wish people weren't put off by the amount of episodes. I adore this cast, but the choices made by production and the quality of the drama this season were not splendid. Confusing, still a very confusing season. Despite Simone being an unstoppable powerhouse, this season isn't that amazing. Season 13 scores a 5.26, dropping 0.38% from 2023's list.
RuPaul's Drag Race is back, and it's bigger than ever.
Season 11 is up next, and while I can't lie, I'm always gonna have a soft spot for it because it's the first season that I watched live. I think where it landed on this list makes so much sense, and I think it's a lot like season 13. Both of these seasons have really horrible judging and some drama that could leave a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. But while I do think the drama is slightly more entertaining this season for me, I think this is probably the worst season for judging in all of Drag Race. So many choices were made here that makes it very obvious what the producers wanted to do, and they couldn't try to hide it any worse if they tried. A lot of the enjoyment of the season falls under whether you like Evie as a character or not, because she's so integral to basically everything that's going on. I fall in the camp of really liking Evie, even if I can't acknowledge that her saying certain things at certain times was probably not the most helpful, but it was really cool to see an outspoken, confrontational queen be edited like the hero of the season, when it was clearly so possible for them to edit her like the villain. This is also one of the last times where they really tried to edit people to be one-dimensional villains on the show, people like Raja or Silky. It's clear that RuPaul really liked both of them, especially Silky. but a lot of the good graces were buried in favor of making Evie look as positive as possible. There's also just a lot of rough challenge performance and lip sync performances this season. Diva Worship into the 6-way lip sync was a mess. Silky versus Nina, also a mess. If I didn't have rose-colored glasses on, I would definitely really dislike this season as much as most of the other people, but I would bump this one up a couple spots on my personal list. It had its moments, but I didn't love this season. It didn't have the oomph I miss from older seasons. Great drama, everything else was mediocre or worse. Had some great moments in Queens, but the pacing is kind of bad, and it's one of the few seasons that lost me in the middle. Season 11 scores a 5.56, down 0.08 from 2023's list.
In a world full of 9s, be a 10.
We next have Season 10, which is like the triplet to the past 2 seasons. And while I think both Seasons 13 and 11 started out pretty poorly received even off the bat, Season 10, while not greatly received while it was airing, I don't think it was criticized to the point of the other 2 seasons, but yet it has slowly slipped down over the years. A lot of it may be to do with the fact that this is the first season to commit a lot of the crimes that a lot of the bad Drag Race seasons commit. We are judging really bad one-dimensional edits for certain people, challenges that just don't really make sense for the competition. A big one being casting certain queens to try and recreate drama from previous seasons. Aquaria and Miss Cracker were supposed to be Alyssa and Coco of Season 10, but their overproduced swing was definitely a miss, and that storyline specifically really didn't go anywhere. Season 10 was coming off the heels of Season 9. I mean, that's how numbers work. I mean, in the terms of Season 9 being such a lightning in the bottle season with a lot of craziness going on, but the way that it was presented made it really entertaining and just kept everyone on their toes. The season was great because it was unpredictable because of the queens. It was natural, and then Season 10 tried to emulate a lot of what happened in Season 9, but unnaturally. The lip sync for the crown at the end of the season is the best example. It was a brand new concept for Season 9, we saw how successful it was, so in Season 10 they had to pull out all the stops, but the stops are what stopped people from winning the crown. I could have probably said that better. The show reached new heights in popularity by the end of Season 9, and they really wanted to capitalize it for Season 10. And I think even a lot of the queens knew that too, playing up their personalities, and sometimes it just didn't come across the most authentic. I don't really feel the best watching any drama and leaving it, but Season 10's especially felt way too real, especially at the reunion, which I won't even really get into. Your enjoyment of the cast chemistry often rides on who makes it to the end of the season. And while I think queens like Monet and Asia were a huge plus in the cast chemistry, other queens who made it really far, I don't really see them meshing super well together, and that just led for a really boring endgame. A boring bad endgame where we had to sit through challenges like Breast World and Evil Twins. And yeah, coming back to that, they had some of the worst challenges this season. Like I just mentioned with Season 11, I would bump it up a little higher. For my personal list, I would put this season a lot lower. I do not like Season 10, I apologize. I enjoyed this season for the most part, but let's be real, it's pretty rough. Mo not even being high for the first challenge, Rue scolding Vixen at the reunion, the Farmer Musical, Breast World, where am I? Where am I? What's going on? But I was so proud of Aquaria for winning, and some of my favorite queens come from this season. That's very true, this season had a lot of heavy hitters in retrospect. Simply a snooze fest. Season 10 is boring, I don't know what else there is to say. Like outside of the Vanjie of it all, it gives nothing. I think Aquaria is a much better winner than people give her credit for. Just saying, love the season. Unpopular opinion, but I hate this season. So much negativity being rewarded, and besides the obvious exceptions, a really lackluster cast. Season 10 scores a 5.64, down 0.22 from the 2023 list.
Their chance to snatch the trophy in this revolutionary new tournament. All-Stars. Are you ready for the games to begin?
We now have the next new entry on this list, and can you guess what this one is? It's All-Stars 10, which honestly makes it slightly higher than I expected it to. My expectations were on the fact that people kind of soured on the season at the end because of the ending and just the merge and everything, but the entertainment of the first 2 brackets I think held true enough for it to score okay. The first bracket of the season couldn't have done a better job introducing the format and everything that could happen. There was drama with the points, there was alliances, something that we've seen in past All-Star seasons be inconsequential is giving out stars or points, but here it played a big role in getting Aja to the merge. Irene also got the ultimate redemption here, and Bosco just continued to steamroll the competition from her last season. Bracket 2, not everyone's cup of tea because it is a lot of mistress. The heist of the points to get themselves in the lead, I think a lot of people don't like this moment. For me, I thought it was ridiculous that it could even happen, but I really do find entertainment in the fact that she pulled it off in the first place. And then we get to bracket 3, where all the momentum of the season is killed. I know everyone wants to point fingers at one queen, Ginger Minj, cringe for being the reason that this bracket was bad and the rest of the season is bad. And while it did turn into another season of being a very obvious winner as soon as they walked through the door, bracket 3 had other problems outside of Ginger too. Any of these brackets could have honestly been a flop if the queens didn't really give it. Brackets 1 and 2 were really entertaining with their interactions, while bracket 3, I think a lot of it banked on the fact that Daya and Alyssa would get into it more, and that didn't really happen. They really played up the moment of Alyssa at the reunion calling Daya a bitch, making it seem like it was this big moment, when in all reality, of course, it was way more between Jasmine and Daya than Alyssa and Daya. Nothing really happened there. Denali and Ginger were just kind of there competing, nothing really happened with them. The only thing that I could say about this bracket that really happened was Cynthia making it off of the good graces of her sister, which was really sweet to see. A lot of that campaigning headed by Acid Betty, who just wanted to see her sister move on. Acid Betty was probably another queen that they expected to see a little more drama with, but instead she was just all about uplifting Cynthia, which I think is really funny, but of course doesn't really add much to the bracket in terms of chemistry. But that's okay because it's only 3 episodes, and then we move on to the merge, which is much longer, right? No, just another 3 episodes. We had 9 queens at the merge, 2 were eliminated, and then 1 queen from the entire cast was brought back through a wildcard system, just to lip sync for the crown and go out in the first round. That was Carrie Colby that did that. This is supposed to be the best of the best competition of the entire cast, and we get to spend only 3 more weeks with them. And we barely get any time with all of them at the final week too. Queens don't get a proper send-off, and the ultimate winner of the season being Ginger Minj, she doesn't really get a proper winner storyline either. It's just not enough time to enjoy the season because everything's constantly changing. And we end with the lip sync for the crown on the main stage, which is my least favorite format. I've said that a lot, and I think a lot of people agree. Started out great, but it wasn't able to sustain itself. The latter part of the season should have been longer, too much production riggery. This season fumbled the bag so hard because the first 2 brackets felt like one of the best all-star seasons of all time, and then from the purple bracket onward, it felt like they were forcing through a very specific narrative as an overreaction to fan backlash from previous all-star seasons at the expense of neglecting a lot of queens on the cast, doing not just a disservice to them, but to the winner. Lydia and Bosco doing a lot for me this season, but I honestly really like this season and think it's overhated at this point. I'm also a Ginger fan and will hence give this a high score despite all the fat phobic and hateful Drag Race fans. That's funny. All Stars 10 scores a clean 6.00 out of 10.
A one-of-a-kind candy bar could make a queen's wish come true. Hope you saved room for dessert.
We made it to the seasons that have scored a 6 or higher, and starting at this next entry, I think people would regard these seasons as pretty good seasons of Drag Race. Because as you'll see in a second, there was a pretty sizable jump up from the flat 6.0 to a higher than a 6.5. With saying that though, this next season has actually dropped a lot on this list, and that is season 14. Season 14 suffers a lot of the same issues that season 13 does in terms of pacing. It's the second year in a row since season 3 randomly where they ordered 16 episodes, so the season had to get really creative in terms of how they ran the competition. Whether that be non-elimination episodes or not eliminating the queens, the whole twist of the season basically being around that latter part. The Golden Chocolate Bar was something that wasn't very well received, and it still really hasn't grown on people at all. If a queen loses a lip sync and is going to be eliminated, they open up a chocolate bar, and if they have the golden one, they get to stay in the competition. They can very clearly switch things around and give it to a queen that they want, even though they tried to kind of mask it with them signing it at the beginning, so it's like, oh, this is theirs. And with an early frontrunner of the competition, Cornbread, going out super early due to injury, they had to pivot a lot during this season, so they probably had to switch around the chocolate bar as well. Bosco became the one that was saved by this twist, which is all fine and dandy. We love Bosco. However, just a couple episodes before this, there was a double Shantae, and just a couple episodes before that, there was a top 2. And somewhere in that mix, there was also Snatch Game, where it was so bad that no one went home that week, so then the next week someone went home instead. And then also the first 2 episodes were split premiere and non-elimination. So with all these non-eliminations going on, you can see how it makes the chocolate bar's impact a lot less. It was also the second to last save of the season. There was also a save at top 5 too. So by this point, many fans were already fed up in general with so many people being saved, and still each week they had to sit and watch these chocolate bars be opened knowing that someone else is also going to get saved. They executed Bosco's pretty well, and she was able to bounce back the next week. So if this was the only twist that happened this season, I honestly feel like people would regard it a lot better. But because it's surrounded by so many other shenanigans that tank the whole idea of competition, the twist is looked at as bad, and people just don't want to go back and binge the whole season because the pacing is genuinely terrible. As for other aspects like the challenges or the cast, I personally love the cast and I think there's a lot of creative challenges, but I can definitely see how they're not people's cups of tea, and you know, there's performances like Snatch Game in here that are just also genuinely terrible. Having an entire episode about how bad your cast is doing at a challenge, aside from Deja Sky, it's not the best look, and it definitely tanked a lot of people's perceptions of the cast. cast and the season. What I do value about the season is that it caused them to pivot a lot. Coming off of season 13 with them kind of just banging their head against the wall over and over again, trying to set up storylines that they set up early but couldn't do. Season 14 had a lot of storylines that maybe were going to be set up but then couldn't be, so instead of just trying to force them in at the end, there was a lot more movement, and I think we got people like Lady Camden rise to the top of it. It's a messy season that throws competition out the window, but I have a soft spot for it because it was around the time that I started my channel. Some amazing queens, but a bit of a mess. Kept on going forever, top 5 with the double sachet the episode prior. In the end, all finalists had such track records that nobody was a solid pick for the win. This was a coin flip. Too long, but such a lovable and talented cast. I feel like this is the modern generation's season 5 or 9 in terms of potential for the queens to make huge impacts in the fandom or the drag world. Very entertaining season. Willow is one of my favorite winners to come out of RPDR. Lots of highs, a decent amount of lows. Willow Pilla is one of my favorite winners, and I love that they brought solo performance aspect back to the finale. I didn't mean to choose so many positive opinions. Season 14 scores a 6.58, down 0.49 from 2023's list.
Me? I'm just a humble gal with a little reality show.
Because season 14 fell down so much, we're gonna have some seasons that rose up the list, with this one being one of them. Season 7 finds itself one spot higher from the 2023 list, and it's really clear that opinions on this season are changing more and more over time. A lot of it having to do with this being the introduction to Trixie and Katya and other queens like Violet Chachki or Miss Fame. There's also Kennedy Davenport, Jasmine Masters, Pearl. I mean, this is also Ginger's first season too. The chemistry wasn't great on the season outside of anyone's interactions with Katya, but they were all so different that post-season they became really successful, and then retroactively it made a lot of people appreciate the season more. Nowadays, we're basically seeing a reverse of what happened back in the day. Trixie and Katya just did a recap podcast talking about the season, and there's a lot of things to really appreciate. They're in people's ears basically saying, oh, it's not the best season, but there are things to like. While back in the day, Bianca was definitely not the most favorable towards the season, and because she was the most recent winner, I think a lot of people really took that to heart and were like, yeah, the season isn't great either. Basically, if you want to look for the negatives, you can find them. If you want to look for the positives, you can also find them with the season. There were some of the most creative and best challenges this season, and there were also some of the worst. I mean, Shakespeare was on the season, we don't really need to talk about it. There were a lot of fashion queens who did not know comedy super well. It's also a storyline that they had young versus old kind of, but it's funny because Miss Fame is in the most young and Ginger is in the most old, but they were in those groups. It was way more about fashion versus comedy, but they just kind of labeled it differently. The fashion queens were not great at comedy, and so many of these challenges were group comedy challenges, which definitely tanks a lot of the quality of performance of the season, and that's really hard to recover from a lot of the time. I think perception of the season is similar to season 14, where there was one of the worst challenge performances from a group ever, and after you see that, I mean, yeah, it's hard to really watch a season after that. But I think as we get further and further out from the season and its flaws are very apparent, we become desensitized towards them to the point where anything is enjoyable that you watch from the season. It's a time capsule of the time just a little bit before Drag Race became super mainstream, and I really do miss this vibe. I wish I could have really gone back and lived it. It's not a good season, no one will really say it is, but it still gave birth to some incredible stars and some really iconic quotes.
After a long night of hooking.
I may be biased because I just watched this, but I feel like it's a little underrated. Even the bad episode was camp and kind of iconic for it. The season was always good. It just came after possibly the best season the show ever had and will ever have, but once you remove it from the previous season, you can truly see how good she is. Meh, it had its moments, but I didn't love the season's challenges. I give it an appropriate 7, haha. I don't think it deserves the hate it originally got, but it's an okay season of Drag Race. This is probably the season Ginger should have won besides All Stars 10, but that's a whole other story. Overhated and honestly really enjoyable. So many legends as well. And even queens like Pearl had a lasting impression on me. Season 7 scores a 6.67, up 0.38% from the 2023 list. The first season to actually gain points on the list, which just goes to show how big of an attitude change there's been.
Are you ready for another lap?
Beating season 7 out by just 0.1, we have season 2, another one that I won't talk about for super long. The winner of the season has never really had public favor, most recently saying some horrible things about other great queens, and that's definitely affected a lot of people's ratings on this list. As time's arrow marches on, there's just going to be more and more seasons that might be tainted by certain queens, 2 of which being tainted by winners, but we'll get to the other one pretty soon. If someone who's new to the show was going to go back and watch season 2, I think that would be a really good starting point. At some point, I think it's good to always watch season 1 as well, but season 2, both visually, judging, challenge-wise, this is like the first official product of Drag Race. Everything is slightly lower budget, but they basically nailed everything visually with the show. It's still something you could recognize today. This is also the first season to have Snatch Game Team and Untucked, things that are just staples now. Jujubee, Raven, Tatiana, Pandora Box, Morgan McMichaels, so many iconic queens have come from this season. There's a ton of drama that can draw people in, and while the energy and Drag Race editing isn't at an all-time high, of course, it's a great starting point and something that I'll always recommend if people want to start really early. Honestly, I think this is some of the best of the VH1, I think they mean logo, era. Everyone being so unfiltered and unhinged made this season fun to watch. The challenges have aged pretty well and are fun and could still be done today. It's where the show found its footing and it's great for that. There were still some growing pains like the lip syncs having too many confessionals. There's also the winner who is a whole problem, but I stand by the season. Also, the eating contest was iconic. It only took one season for Drag Race to perfect its formula and find some of the most entertaining drag queens in America. Despite the winner, this season really proved Drag Race's staying power. Also, Nicole Paige Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia. How could I forget mentioning her? Raw, original, endlessly quotable, and brought countless incredible queens that are still some of the best. Season 2 scores a 6.68, down 0.29 from 2023's list. Season 4 is up next, another season to drop a couple spots from the last list, and another season that was tainted by its winner. A fall from grace even harder than the previous because we virtually saw no bad moments of this queen on the season. They were framed as the hero and they were rewarded for it. And while that drama is extremely quotable and iconic, some people struggle to separate their enjoyment from who the winner is now, and it makes sense. It's really unfortunate because for a long time people consider this the start to the golden age, which I still do think it is, but things are less golden now as time goes on, and I think I could be way more critical of the season. A lot of the challenges on the season are among the weakest that we've seen on the show up to this point, with there only being a couple standouts like the political challenge or Snatch Game for the season. But I often forget other challenges like the album advertisement challenge or the magazine challenge. The only reason I remember the wrestling challenge is because Madame LaQueer's uncle went clique. Outside of Chad's performance in Snatch Game, Latrice's response in the political challenge, and Latrice being the whole show.
I'm Latrice, and I'm the whole show.
It's all based around the characters this season because the challenges, they're not great. But wow, we have some all-timer characters here. There's Willem, Chad, Dita Ritz, who still needs to come back. Latrice wins you over on her entrance alone. They really hit their stride here with casting, and editing isn't far behind, starting to get that signature Drag Race style. And even if the storytelling isn't great in terms of how they depicted people, the storytelling in general is much better and it gets you to root for certain queens. Sharon is widely agreed upon to not be talked about, but the way they highlighted her type of drag and the influence that she's had on certain people in the scene, there was major impact there, and we don't need to praise her, but there was at least some good to come out of that bad. Tons of storylines and amazing lip syncs, tainted by the winner. It's a shame for the winner, but season 4 is the first season of Drag Race's golden age. Weird to rewatch in retrospective given things, but great cast and really fun iconic challenges and drama. Overrated and so rough to watch at moments. Couldn't stand Sharon then and obviously can't stand her now. Love Latrice and Willem though, and rest in peace Jiggly. Season 4 scores a 6.77, down 0.40 from 2023's list. A season that's rose a significant amount of spots just because other seasons below it have fallen is Drag Race Season 3, which, not to get ahead of myself, but it has neither gained nor lost points since the 2023 list. And because it's so consistent while other seasons have fallen, it ended up rising higher on the list. This is the Project Runway season of Drag Race, with 4 design challenges throughout the season, with 2 of those being balls. They're spaced out relatively well, with 2 coming a little too close together at the end of the season. There were so many because this was the first and only season in a long time to have 16 episodes ordered, so they did a lot of things to get creative. They did a casting special at the beginning of the season, which actually featured a lot of queens that would later appear on Drag Race. They brought Carmen back just to send her home right again. They were still doing Countdown to the Crown. I mean, they made it work, but it was extremely design heavy, which thankfully was okay because people like Raja were on this season, who was one of my favorite winners. It's a fun cast full of queens who are really committed to getting the crown. Even someone who went early like Mimi I'm First really wanted it bad. So bad to the point where she picked India Farah up during a lip sync because she was getting in her way. If y'all want to know my thoughts on this season's lip syncs, don't worry, that series is still happening, but a lot of them were pretty messy this season, and it's not the best season for lip syncs. And even if the quality of the lip syncs weren't the best, you can tell that the queens were fighting because they wanted to stay there. With all the queens thinking that they were gonna win the show, it leads to a type of chemistry that you just can't really get nowadays. They were the group that saw the first 2 seasons and knew that they were gonna go into a show that was starting to make an impact, and every single one of them believed that they were the person that was gonna win the show. Sometimes nowadays, I think there's some queens who go on and they write their mirror message and they're like, yeah, I learned a lot, but you know, maybe it wasn't my time. It is really fun to go back and see each person go out pretty bitter because they think they should still be the winner of the season. Raja is one of those early winners who's not disgraced, that was extremely influential on so many people in the drag space because her fashion is just off the charts. She elevated the runway more than anyone else, but there's other queens on the season that were also incredible. And because they stepped up their game, they pushed the bar higher and higher to the point where we're here today. Great cast, fun challenges, and the whole Heather thing to me is iconic. A pretty great season, however, it really drags on by the end, and Raja was made to win the season. The amount of design challenges was insane. Gowns, beautiful gowns, beautiful gowns. The Heathers versus Boogers storyline basically went nowhere, and then it got resolved at the reunion. The season started giving us some heavy hitters in terms of fashion and fan favorites. Raja alone is the fashion girl. Just like last list, season 3 scores a 6.79. We are finally back to All-Star seasons with a clear gap in the quality, at least in the opinion of my community. All-Stars 4 is one of the most volatile seasons of Drag Race ever. I was sort of dabbling in the fandom at the time that this came out. I still remember where I was when Naomi eliminated Manila. Prior to that elimination, it seemed like the fandom was taking the season decently well, and then the last 3 episodes came in which completely tanked anything that was happening on the season. The frontrunner went home, we got the double crowning, Sex and the Kitty Girl happened. The ending of the season is one of the worst of any All-Star season out there. But as time has gone on, the BS of All-Stars has continued, and both the double crowning and Naomi eliminating Manila have become much more well-received or at least accepted in the fandom, with Naomi's moment becoming something very iconic to many people, like myself. I will still say any winner's narrative or momentum that the season had was completely killed at the end, and it's not really enjoyable to watch. All-Stars 4 and Season 7 are the 2 main seasons that I would say have only healed more and more over time, both of them being extremely flawed seasons that people can still find appreciation in. Somehow it always comes back to Jasmine Masters. There are still a lot of flaws present in the earlier episodes of All-Stars 4. This was still around the time of seasons 10 and 11, and their judging was still kind of the sloppiest it's ever been, especially when it came to production showing their hand. Preventing Gia from being in the top episode 1, Valentina just magically getting an Ariana song in episode 2. There's a lot of these instances where you can take a step back and just think, okay, what do they want to do here? And then once you think for like 2 seconds, you realize what they were trying to do, and did they accomplish it? Kind of most of the time, yeah. It's pretty manufactured, you can see right through it. Latrice got a pretty bad edit this season, which I don't love, but there's a lot of entertaining drama. People have come around and like Gia as a character. The runways and lip syncs hit almost every single episode, and in a season where there was a lot of manufactured pushing, it was really insane to see Naomi kind of take that back and be like, no, I'm gonna eliminate your frontrunner because simply I want to. There's a lot going against the season, there's a lot going for it, so I think where it's ranked is a perfect spot. Naomi Smalls, the icon and legend. One of my favorite casts, but there are clearly some power imbalances on this season. They tried to repeat All-Stars 2, but the producer rigging came in the way. Starts off so great, but the last episodes are so bad. Well, what you want to do isn't necessarily what you're gonna do. All-Stars 4 scores a 7.12, down 0.12 from the last list.
This season, I'm going back to my roots, and you could probably use a touch-up too, honey.
Season 8 is up next, and it is the premier feel-good season of Drag Race. There's light drama, but most of it is more so bickering than anything else, and it feels like a cast family with all of them together getting along, while still having little arguments, most of the time involving Derek. A critique I often see from the season, which I do agree with, is that it's way too short, but because there isn't a ton of storyline drama going on, the short episode run actually helps make the season feel a lot more punchy, quicker, and enjoyable. I think if we did have this wholesome cast for another 3 or 4 episodes, it may have started to drag, but because this season took a hit in order to fund All-Stars 2, it helped boost the enjoyment of this season, and also it gave us All-Stars 2. Season 8 is also home to my favorite top 3 ever, with Bob, Kimchi, and Naomi Smalls, all 3 being extremely diverse, well-rounded queens, who are still very big in the Drag Race fandom today. Watching Bob dominate the season is a really great time, while at the same time, it is a little too obvious that he's gonna win. A lot of it is just how you feel about Bob in the moment, because he's such a prominent figure, and if you're not a fan, you're still gonna be seeing him a lot on the screen, and some people just may not enjoy that. Beyond the top 3, we have Derek, like I mentioned, Thor D Thor, Chi Chi DeVayne, Robbie Turner. The cast is full of stars. The Drag Race team really refined their creative chops here when it came to the challenges. They are by no means all home runs, but I think there were a lot of challenges that really stick with you. The B-52s inspired challenge, I think Ruko Empire is a really funny skit. Maybe Bob had a big hand in that though. They pulled off Bitch Perfect super well as an acapella musical. This season has the political challenge again, which I think should always be a staple every 4 years. We saw a lot of really creative ideas start in season 7, but maybe they didn't really execute them super well. By season 8 though, they were able to refine them into something that was really fun. This was the first season I ever saw. Maybe I'm just blinded by nostalgia, but I love this season. One of the best top 3s, just too short. So boring. Bob saved it though. Way too short. I love how short the season is. It's quick, light, and fun. The short season messed up the flow. Highlights are the top 3, Robbie Turner's lies, and Thorgy's existence. This might be a hot take, but I barely remember season 8. Like, it's fine, but other than a few iconic moments, it's too short and a little forgettable. Season 8 scores a 7.17, down 0.05 from the 2023 list.
This January, 14 new queens are making a splash.
We have the next new entry to our list, Season 17, the most recent regular US season. I'm gonna be completely honest, I expected this one to rank a lot lower, maybe around Season 14, Season 7, and recency bias may have a little bit to do with this, but it does feel good to see, at least right now, so many people are enjoying this season because it's one of my personal favorites. To get the lows out of the way, some challenges or challenge performances were pretty bad. The Snatch game in particular left a lot of people wanting more from the cast, and then there were other challenges like the interpretive dance, which I think has just kind of gotten worse as I keep watching it, and Ross Matthews versus the Ducks. I mean, we saw SheMZ. Do you think it was a good idea to do this again, basically? The finale of the season was also on the main stage with a really small crowd. It was an extremely disappointing and lackluster way to end the season, and they also just had a hard time ending each episode because the lip syncs were not really that great this season, which were not the queen's faults a lot of the time. I know a lot of them are really good performers. The song choices this season are among the worst, almost as bad as season 16, but those lip syncs were so much better. We need to stop doing trendy songs, especially the mid-tempo ones. They're just not good lip sync songs, and it leads to a really bad end to an episode, and it's often what people remember about a season. I totally see how if you don't really like the queens, you're not going to connect to the season, and then it may have caused the show to drag week to week. At least for me though, I love this cast so much both on and off the show, and it was really fun to follow. Their relationships felt so raw, and I understood all of them, and what I really like is that they weren't taking themselves too seriously. The winner of the season, Anya Nerve, got into some of the biggest drama on the season, but because so much of it was in the moment and they were able to resolve it because they knew it wasn't the biggest deal, not life or death, it was super easy to continue to root for every party involved. Anya was such a fun character to follow because she got into conflict, she knew she was wrong a lot of the time, and yet you see how good of a person she still is and how likable she is. She just messes up. There's also Lexi and Susie, which was like a one-sided therapy session for Lexi. Everyone in the cast had a little something going on and a little connection, something really fun to read into and follow. That's why I love the season, that's why a lot of other people connected to it, but if you didn't vibe with it, I completely understand why. Started strong but lost me a bit at the end. However, I love the drama that these queens came up with for no reason, and the runways were very nice to look at. Didn't connect to the cast as much, felt like a year of rookies. A wild ride. Lydia and Corey make this season a 10 alone for me, but this is also the season that made me a Drag Race fan in the first place, so I will always adore it and its quirks. Season 17 scores a 7.18 out of 10.
Are you ready to go for the gold? My most legendary queens return to battle for the crown.
And with that season out of the way, we have now entered our top 10. One season has rose the ranks a lot, the rest of them have kind of stayed in the exact same place with the addition of one new season. Up first, we have the season that rose a lot of ranks, All Stars 3. Another season that's rose in the numbers as well since 2023, but not by too much, so I think it's more so about the seasons that have shifted down. Still though, I've seen a growing appreciation again for All Stars 3. The further and further out we get from the jury and the handmaids to kitty girls, all that twist. There's always going to be a bad twist in All Stars. This was just probably like the first outside of the teams, and it screwed over the frontrunner who turned out to not be the best person. Instead, we got a Trixie win, which over the years people have really warmed up to. And while people haven't warmed up to this twist, I think people have more just learned to accept it. All Stars 3 is nothing short of a roller coaster that was almost a steamroll by Ben de la Creme from the moment she walked in, only to then shift to another candidate at the end game, and then they were voted top 2 by the jury, so then it landed on Trixie. Everything that was being set up to be a standard season of All Stars was destroyed, all because of one decision by a queen and one decision by production. In between all the production craziness though, we got some all-timer challenge performances, some great lip syncs, some great runways. While it could never really follow in the footsteps of its predecessor, this cast proved that All Stars was a good concept and it's here to stay. That first half of the season is really so good, and with the addition of seeing queens like Aja back for All Stars 10, it's made things that happened to her on this season a lot easier to stomach. I also just really like the vibe of the season because this is right before they went full VH1. Like they had it for season 9 already, but I'm pretty sure that one was also supposed to be on Logo, and it was before they redid the set for season 10, so it feels kind of like the end of an era in some way, the last season to only feature single-digit queens. It's a charming time, and it's easier to watch when you know the mess that happens at the end. Amazing season that gets gets unnoticed in the shadow of All-Stars 2. Ben's run is amazing, the cast is amazing. I might be alone, but I like the jury twist. Who better to judge who deserves to be in the Drag Hall of Fame than the queens themselves? Someone they admire and respect. Aged like fine wine. Good season, great cast, hard to follow All-Stars 2. The whole voting thing at the end was so rigged. Yay for Trixie, Aja was robbed, meh, jury twist ruined it. Ben de la Creme, that's all. All-Stars 3 scores a 7.23, up 0.13 from 2023's list.
Are you ready for a major move to MTV?
Season 15 is up next, which is just a good season of Drag Race. It's just about as standard as you can get. No double Shantays up until the top 4, a really great top 4 at that, with a very predictable winner at the end of the season. And to a lot of people, and me personally, that predictability is almost too much. We just talked about season 8 and how it was very easy to tell that Bob was going to win that season. There were times, especially early on though, where it didn't seem like Bob was going to be the ultimate winner. Just a very popular character at the very least. Sasha Colby, the eventual winner of season 15, there was not a single time where we didn't know that she was gonna win. The entire season revolved around people talking about Sasha and how good she is, and she is so good. That just doesn't make for the most engaging watch, especially week to week. She had one little beat of story in episode 3 where she was like, oh, maybe I'm not all that, and then she won the challenge, and then after that she was all that the rest of the season. She is the most obvious regular season winner we've had, and we've had a lot of very obvious ones. Seeing everyone else fight for second place, just competition wise, it's not the most fun to watch. But on a rewatch, especially with the 60-minute episodes as opposed to the 40-minute episodes, something that we had no choice but to watch back in 2023, rewatching it knowing that Sasha won and just being able to enjoy the season, it's definitely a lot better. Like a lot of seasons with a very prominent villain, if you don't like Mistress, you probably won't like this season very much because she's a very prominent figure. On season 15, I tend to enjoy her a lot more than her next appearance, and a lot of my viewers also agreed. It's a very nice basic season to watch, especially coming off of the non-elimination fiasco that was season 14, and I also point to this season pretty often if someone wants to get into the show. Not my favorite, but I understand why it's so loved. Sasha Colby, need I say more? I mean, we all knew who was going to win, but Mistress was on the season and I love her. This was the first season I watched while airing. Some of the queens here are my favorite drag queens ever, and definitely a season of lip syncs. The problem was mainly the amount of girls there were. 16 girls meant the first 4 weeks we didn't really get to see much of from some of the queens, and some, cough cough Robin Fierce, just faded into the background and eventually just got eliminated. Mixed feelings on this season, mainly because it's so predictable. Adore Sasha, but I can't enjoy rewatching a season that feels so top heavy. Also feel like Marcia and Lucy were mistreated the whole time. Season 15 scores a 7.47, down 0.40 from the 2023 list.
Second chances are paramount. So rise, my queens.
I'm so happy to see that All-Star 6 is still in the top 10. I was one of the firm believers in the season at a start, while many others weren't as confident when they saw the cast. But I'd say by episode 3, people realized that this was a really good season. From the jump, they had one theme in mind: redemption. Everyone wanted redemption this season for one reason or another, and they stuck to that theme so easily throughout the season. Redemption is inherently built into All-Stars, but there was just such a conscious effort this season to acknowledge the queens in their past and just have an idea of how they could carry over storylines from previous seasons, something that I feel like All-Stars fails to do a lot of the time. A central figure of the season is Raja O'Hara, who basically gets an apology letter from Drag Race. Her first depiction was pretty one-dimensional, and it caused her to get a lot of hate even though she was so entertaining that season. And so on this season, she was able to show what a light she was able to make amends with previous people, she won multiple challenges, and pushed herself even further as the ultimate confessional queen. The winner of the season, Kylie Sonique Love, originally went out 4th on season 2, and yet here she was able to showcase extremely strong talent performances, even redeeming herself during Snatch Game, the challenge she originally went home on, and a challenge that I think she should have won over Ginger. Even the first out Serena Chacha got a much better showcase than she did on season 5, with the benefit of the Lip Sync SmackDown giving everyone a really great proper send-off. Especially Silky, who went out 3rd originally and had a lot of criticism about the way she lip synced on her previous season. She was able to come back and win 6 lip syncs, almost making it back into the competition. Ultimate redemption all around. Not to mention, the vibes of the season were shortly after things were starting to open back up post-pandemic, so everyone was happy to be there, especially Rue, which was so great to see. A return to form for All-Stars somewhat. The redemption is what I watch All-Stars for. Wildcard cast, so many redemptions, and the lip sync assassin format actually worked here. Also, the Silky SmackDown was great. Best All-Stars since All-Stars 2. I know I'm in the minority here, but I'm obsessed with All-Stars 6. One of the best Drag Race seasons ever. I love that it was a redemption season, cause wow did it turn around my opinion on Silky and Raja. Everyone killed this season even though the cast looked like it was going to be a mess. What a surprise indeed. All-Stars 6 scores a 7.58, dropping 0.64 from the 2023 list.
My fellow Americans, RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12 is here.
Season 12 is up next, and it's been sitting here for the past couple years, comfortably in the top 10, while the other seasons around it are much lower. Seasons 10, 11, and 13 are sitting really low on the list, while Season 12 is in the top 10. And the production of the time and how people weren't really regarding it the best, that's honestly the least of Season 12's worries, because it also had a disqualified queen in the mix that they had to edit out of the season last minute, and yet it defied all odds and became one of the best seasons of the show. Unlike other queens who tainted their seasons retroactively, because they edited Sherry out before the season even aired, it allowed for everyone else to shine, and it made the vibes really unmatched. I don't think we would have gotten nearly as much content from Heidi or Jackie or even someone like Jan if we didn't have to cut entire storylines about another queen. It did unfortunately amplify the Britta versus Aiden storyline, which was so like nothing, but it took up such a major portion of the season. I still think that is an okay enough trade-off for seeing so many other amazing characters. There's some all-time challenge performances here, and it also helps that RuPaul loves this cast. Just the walkthroughs alone with Crystal Method, you can see it. At a time in 2020 where everyone was glued to their screens and people just needed something feel-good to watch, Season 12 was there to keep spirits high in spite of it all. Great season. It just makes you wonder that it could have ended even better had that person not been in the cast. I love the season if we're talking about the girls and the performances. I'll give kudos to the editing team as well, but I will never forget WoW won an Emmy for best casting that year. The year casting went so sideways. Loved Jada so much, was rooting for her from the beginning. What a fun cast minus the obvious. Got me through the pandemic, gave me hope, and was a major light in the dark. So glad that out of all the seasons, it was Season 12 that got to go through COVID. Insane cast and great challenges. Season 12 scores a 7.72 out of 10, down 0.58 from 2023's list. Quick photosensitivity warning for this next promo.
Do not adjust your screen.
Join the revolution
On MTV.
The final new season of the list is up next, and it made a really valiant effort trying to break that top 5. But just out of the top 5, we have Season 16. Aside from Season 12, I think Season 16 is easily the strongest season post-2020. It's the perfect blend of modern Drag Race while still calling back to a lot of older Drag Race vibes. The top 3 of the season are among the strongest ever, and I could have honestly seen any of them win, but I am really happy with the Nymphia win in general. Plain Jane is a really fun villain to watch, definitely not my favorite, but I do enjoy that she does pot stir, and I honestly can't wait for Saphira to come back, walk through the door of All Stars, and just win the season on the spot. Beyond the top 3, the rest of the cast is really fun as well. I am a Dawn stan. I love how much of a secret pot stirrer she was on the season. We have Morphine as the official lip sync assassin, as we saw in one of the best episodes ever, the Lollapalooza episode. Maya Mon LePage, need I say more? The only criticisms that I really have this season are the challenges towards the late game I'm not the biggest fan of, the bathroom challenge, and the book design into the top 3, not my favorite. It's also really top heavy when it comes to placements. Someone like Tsunami had so many safe placements in a row and then was just eliminated. It's not as fun when you can tell the top 4 right off the bat. But the pure drag talent and the chemistry of this cast will always keep me coming back. You never know how good something is until it's gone, and I can't wait to see all of these queens come back for All Stars. Another solid season from MTV. This was the first time in a while that I was kept on my toes with the winner. I love Nymphia, but I really thought that they were going to give it to Saphira. Overall though, pretty good and entertaining. While Plain was too much at times, it didn't ruin the season for me since everyone else was on their game. The lip sync Lollapalooza was the best as well. Amazing cast, great challenges, will never hear me say anything bad about Season 16. Dawn is my girl, and I love Plain so freaking much. Such an enjoyable season, just please bring Saphira back, please. Top quality drag and a fun cast make up for the lack of drama. Season 16 scores an 8.06 out of 10.
Bring back my winners.
The fans want us to compete again, then get in the ring and let's go.
Now that we're done with all the new seasons, we've made it to the top 5, and spoilers, it hasn't changed since 2023. I'm gonna run through them relatively fast, still talk about them and their flaws and their pluses, and of course give y'all's opinions too, but at this point, you know the good seasons of Drag Race, and we don't need to discuss it too much. The all-winner season of Drag Race, All Star 7, is the first up. And yeah, unless they somehow bury each of the queens in the edit, an all-winner season is naturally just gonna rank really high. This is simply a celebration of the drag of all 8 winners, to the point where they edited out any bad critiques that they got. And they had a very similar system to All Stars 9. And while neither season has the most stakes because we know everyone's gonna be there the entire time, the winners this season had more to fight for, and I think it was just more interesting to watch because it was winners. They did both defend their title and showcase why they won their season in the first place. And I think everyone, maybe with the exception of Evie, unfortunately did that super well. Evie being super underutilized and under-edited is one of my only criticisms of the season, because she's gone on to say there was a lot more content with her struggling there, but they kind of chose to omit a lot of that, and that was really sad to see. Each week though, all of the queens had incredible challenge performances, with me being able to only count the bad ones on a single hand. The drag in general general and Drag Race performance drag, it was at an all-time high, and I expect nothing less out of the winners. Like with most other All-Star seasons though, the ending of the season is definitely what brings it down in points. The momentum of the season starts to falter in some ways, and then we get to the 3-star twist, which kind of makes a lot of the season null and void, and then the lip sync for the crown right after, probably one of the worst All-Stars episodes ever. Not a fun way to end the season, but there was the rightful crown given out to Jinx, and the rest of the ride was a really good time. I love the lack of eliminations, and I got connected more with the queens. Many strong performances, lots of talent, great challenges, high quality Drag Race. I fell in love with Jada and most of the queens. It was beautiful to see them thrive, and their relationships made everything more heartwarming. Only suffers from the stupid variety twist show at the end. I actually don't like an all-winner season. It was fine and cool for what it was, but it fell a little flat. Love seeing previous winners for sure, but just boring with no stakes, and not as grand as it should have been for all winners. The twists were annoying and just unnecessary. All-Star 7 scores an 8.36, up 0.03 from 2023's list.
We need America's next drag superstar now more than ever. RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9.
Season 9 is up next, which is always the gatekeeper season to the top 3 of the show. Like I mentioned all the way back in Season 10, this season is nothing short of lightning in a bottle. So many things happened this season that production could not have calculated. Eureka, a big personality going home due to injury, Valentina and her mask gate, and of course the finale with Sasha Velour's rose petals. Every step of the way, production wanted to go one direction, and yet they were pushed another direction because the queens just kinda did that by accident. Like I said in my last video though, the season doesn't really start out the strongest after the premiere, and then we immediately go into the cheerleading challenge, the princess challenge, and the news host challenge. It finds its footing again around the musical, and then after that there are just so many fun moments. I love this cast. It was the perfect mixture of old and young queens. There's people who worked super hard and came up in the regular drag scene, but this was also the birth of social media queens, a term that we hadn't really heard before this. A pivotal time in Drag Race that can never be recreated no matter how hard they try. Such an excellent cast that the riggery doesn't even hurt. Truly a masterpiece, and the drama was not frequent, but what we got was top tier. It got better to me as time went by. I think the deception of seeing Shay losing made me dislike the season at first, but it's a very good season. The twists for this one are the best. Valentina going home, Charlie not lip syncing, Eureka's injury. I was constantly on my toes. Really great challenges and a good cast. Sasha Velour is an all-time favorite of mine, so of course I love this season. Besides her, the whole cast is iconic, and some of these challenges are all-timers of the franchise. Season 9 scores an 8.48, down 0.22% from the 2023 list.
From realms both earthbound and heavenly, I summon my legendary goddesses!
Up next, we have my personal favorite season, Season 5. This season has the best storytelling they've ever done on the show, with both Jinx's underdog storyline and Coco versus Alyssa. I always recommend this season first to anyone who's trying to get into Drag Race, because right off the bat, as soon as Coco walks through the door, you're immediately gripped onto what this all could mean. It's brilliant storytelling, and then it slowly transitions to Jinx's storyline over the season. I've talked about it before, I can always talk about it, it's just so good. It is an extremely top-heavy cast, especially after seeing so many of them return for All-Stars 2, but with so much time passing, even the early outs have little moments that people really appreciate. The talent and TV personalities of this cast are just unmatched on the show. I really can't compare them to anyone else. And if any of your friends or family want to get into Drag Race, always show them Season 5 first. It's a little trashy, but that's what makes it so fun. The drama is unmatched, and I adore Jinx Monsoon. The bullying takes it down a point, but she wins in the end, so not too many points. Alyssa versus Coco, Relaska talks, Jinx is an underdog, double elimination for the first time, Ivy Winters, fun challenges, great overall. I'm very high on this season. This is when it started to get good. Talk about upping the ante from last season. You have preseason drama that escalates from there. Untucked really started becoming an amazing companion piece to the main show. Amazing queens, fashion, just a roller coaster of a ride. It's the season, need I say more? Season 5 scores a 9.16, up 0.05 from the 2023 list.
The wait is over, kittens.
Right after Season 5, we have Season 6. Take the stylized editing and casting of the previous and just up it slightly more. Bianca Del Rio first debuted in Season 6, and she is one of the best winners of the franchise. Their storytelling was truly unmatched in Seasons 5 and 6 because Bianca has such a gripping story, and you can't help but fall in love with her. They play into the idea of her just being this comedy queen who's gonna insult anyone who comes across her. They push that heavy at first, and then they pull that back to showcase a lot of her human side. A lot of it involving queens like Adore Delano or Trinity K. Bonet. May. Younger queens who needed guidance, and Bianca was there to show them that. This is one of the times where they knew that their previous season was so good and they wanted to push to make this one even better, and they succeeded. I truly have very little at all to say bad about it. It's another season that I think anyone could start out with and really fall in love with the show. There's not much else to say. Storylines sure all amazing, and the drama was too. Bianca is an amazing winner. Come on season 6, let's get sickening. Come on season 6, let's get sickening. Bianca's steamrolling everyone. An entertaining assortment of challenges along with a powerhouse final 3 and some awesome lip syncs make for the second best season of Drag Race. Again, another amazing season. Bianca as the winner, yes ma'am. The iconic moments here are aplenty, and I would give anything to watch this season for the first time again. Dayla, Trinity, Adore, and Bianca are the main reason I love this season so much. I chopped a point off for the couple of really hard and cringy episodes like the interview and the makeover. Season 6 scores a 9.21, up 0.05 from the 2023 list.
Queens are wild.
Watch out, girls. This bitch is back.
And we've made it to the top of the list. It's still All-Stars 2, surprise to basically no one. I've already alluded to the season a lot during this video because it's hard to talk about the rest of Drag Race without talking about the best season of the show. There's reasons that people could not like the season, production favoritism being the main one, but because every single Drag Race season has that to some extent, All-Stars 2 doesn't really commit any crimes that any other season doesn't. So if everyone's on an even playing field and we're still just looking at All-Stars 2, it's an incredible season. You take 5 of the best queens from season 5 and then throw in 5 other really mainstay characters, and you're in for the best cast of All-Stars ever. There's multiple storylines coming back in. You could see any single person on the cast winning the crown, and I wish we got that nowadays. Once again, all-timer challenge performances and moments like the mirror. It's the ultimate All-Star season and Drag Race season in general. It's what I want to see if I'm going to watch an All-Star season after so many regular seasons. If you haven't watched this season yet for some reason, how did you make it to the end of this video? I'm shocked. It is the #1 season to watch, and I wish I could watch it all over again with fresh eyes. Masterpiece of a season, no flaws, mild riggery, but I don't even care. The creme de la creme. I fear nothing will ever top season 2 of All-Stars, but look at it, who would want to top season 2? Best cast ever, best twists ever, format worked, and it truly felt like an All-Stars season. The best competing against the best. This was such a step up for All-Stars, worth the wait between 1 and 2. The problem with this season, unfortunately, is the lip sync for your legacy and the Alaska talks of it all. However, still entertaining as hell and iconic for another stacked cast. It's All-Stars 2. All-Stars 2 scores a 9.34, up 0.09 from 2023's list. We have made it to the end of the video. It's my first video that's over an hour long. I'm so happy that it's this one. Thank you so much again to all those who participated. Thanks especially to my patrons who responded. They all got priority to be featured in the video, and they were featured a lot. For those who want to talk about the numbers really quick, let's do it. A good amount of the seasons saw a decrease in points from the 2023 list. Outside of the major seasons with a pretty good reason why, such as recency bias, things like that, I think the rest just decreased because more people were answering the polls. Because double the amount of people answered the polls this time, the average is just gonna go down, mostly because it starts to average out a lot of the higher and lower scores if more people are responding. So anyone that was panicked to see so many of the points go down, don't worry, it's not because people are starting to hate Drag Race or anything. That's just kind of naturally what happens. That's about it. Thank you again to my patrons, my tier 2s, and my tier 3 patrons, Jack, Frankie, and Steely. Thank you so much for watching this huge project. I am gonna have a video out at the end of the month. I'm gonna be on a trip for the middle of the month. If you follow my other social media, you'll still hear from me. Thank you so much for watching till the end. You're amazing, and I'll see you soon with another video.